Okay, well, today is the day. Today is my 100th podcast. Can't believe that it's been 100 already. I don't even remember when I started, but it wasn't that long ago, a couple months ago. And man, it's been quite a ride so far. I've had a lot of different people that I've run into that I've been able to impact in all kinds of different groups that I'm parts of, from Celebrate to Recovery to people in my Bible study groups to people at work to just regular people and even people that I've never even met before that continue to watch the podcast that are from all over the country and probably world. I don't even know if somebody's outside the country or not, but that'd be kind of cool. So anyway, I announced this on the podcast that I did yesterday with my good friend Chris Perry, that I was going to be doing. I thought long and hard about it, and I was going to be doing a podcast about my story. So what's Mike's testimony? Um, how did I find God, and how did I grow into this life that I live now, which is just full of absolute peace and joy and happiness. And how did I get here? So strap your seatbelts on. It's a long story, but I'm going to try to get it done in 30 minutes. And I'm probably going to leave some stuff out, only because it is a very long story. And I have everything in my book. So my book is coming out real soon. It'll be out probably in another 3 or 4 weeks, I'm hoping, because I think the final edits were just done to it the other day, and I'm waiting to get the approval on the final edits for everything. So, if that all goes through, they got to finish the cover, they got to design the back cover. The back cover text has already been approved, and it'll start with publication, I think, after that, once they do trademarks and all the other stuff that they file paperwork and everything for. I'm new to publishing, so I have no idea how it works, but I'm assuming it's only going to be a couple more weeks. So, but once I know when it's going to actually be released, I'll certainly let everybody know so they can get their copies of it. I'll have some copies for some of my close friends, that I'll be passing out and distributing, but um, anybody can buy it, and it's going to be available globally. Kind of freaks me out saying that word because I don't really understand it. I'm like, everybody's, oh, it's going to be available in the United States. Yeah, but it's a Christian publisher that agreed to publish this book, and they're from TBN, which is Broadcasting Network, and they are global. So this book is going to be available all around the entire world. So I'm really excited about it. But it's called, just so you know the title so you can Google it later, it's called Are You Going to Heaven or Hell? And the whole idea of the book, came from a conversation I had outside of a Bible study one day. And, we just started talking amongst ourselves. And I'm not going to give it all away because it's in the book. But, we just, thought this idea of the majority of the people probably, who think they're going to go to heaven just because they're a good person and they happen to go to church, once a week or whatever, and drop a donation in the basket and sing some songs, and then, go right back into the world and forget about God until Sunday. You know, they're probably not going to go to heaven. And it's hard for a lot of people to hear that, but there's a lot more to it that it takes to get to heaven, And what my book does is it kind of goes through my whole story, so people understand who I am and how I got saved and how I got, through everything, and then it walks them through, how they can get saved and how they can, follow Christ and learn what is the most important scriptures in the Bible to read, and to be able to learn to get, live like Jesus, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what the book was about. That's what the whole idea of the book is. And it's designed, again, just like this podcast is designed, is to bring people back to Christ. That's what it's all about. It's trying to bring people to Christ. And whether you're a non-believer, whether you're a believer but you're not sure if you're saved or not, and it's everybody in between. Even if you're the most experienced believer who walks with Jesus daily, you can probably get something out of this book. So I guarantee there's something in there for everybody. And it's a quick read. It's not a very long book. It's a short book, and it's something you can read in a couple hours. You know, you take it on an airplane ride with you. You can probably read it one way and you're done. 2-3 hours. Reading. It's pretty straightforward. You'll be done. But anyway, let's get into my story. So, um, I was, born and raised in Parkville, Maryland, and Kearney, and I grew up in a tiny house with one bathroom. I can remember, my father being in there doing his thing and having to wait, for him to be finished before I could go. And then we eventually, grew out of that house, and they bought another house, which is where I really grew up in around maybe second grade, something like that. And that was over in Kearney, on what was that? It was Cedar Hill Road, something like that. So, and I think my father's still there now to this day in the same house. Not sure because I haven't talked to him in over 20 years. But my childhood was, pretty traumatic. I was really kind of emotionally abused by my parents, and everything that went wrong in the house was kind of blamed on me as my fault because I was the kid that acted out, and I was the kid that did drugs, and I was the kid that got into trouble. Even though I never really, I never got arrested, I never got charged with anything, but I was always mischievous, we'll say, and but I did have a good head on my shoulders, and I had good work ethic that my mom kind of instilled into me. Was always try to be the best at everything you do. It was kind of there, and but she had her own issues. She smoked cigarettes, she drank pretty much every night from what I can remember with her wine boxes that she would get. And but it's funny, even though she drank every night, I didn't really think she was an alcoholic because to me, I was just growing up in this situation, and I thought, well, she's just my mom. That's just what moms do. You know what I mean? I don't know any different. I'm a kid, so anyway, things went on, and I started experimenting with alcohol sometime around fifth grade. I got drunk for the first time. And then I got first marijuana was probably like 13 or 14 years old. I used to hang out at the pool halls with my buddies, and we'd smoke cigarettes and shoot pool and play gambling in the back, even though we weren't allowed to, but they would pay us anyway. We played Keno and do all that stuff, and I'd hang out at Skateland, when I was a little younger, hung out at Skateland, and I actually was a guard there at one point. I was pretty good skating. I could skate sideways, I could skate backwards, I could do all that. Believe it or not, now it's like no way, no way. But it was fun. So I had a lot of fun, and I also, one thing I wanted to do was make money because I wanted to make money so I could start my own life. And this was like 14 years old. I wanted to make money as much as I could because I wanted to move out of my house and be on my own and raise myself because I was just sick of the atmosphere that I was in growing up in. So I've always had a job since I've been 14 years old. I've worked in every pretty much aspect that you could say. I worked in fast food restaurants. I've worked in butcher shops where you have the cows and the deer hanging up skinned in the back and cleaning chicken juice out of the chicken containers. I mean, just nasty stuff. I worked at pizza places. I've worked at, restaurants. I bust tables. I washed dishes. I mopped floors. I cleaned toilets. I, took the bar mats out. I was a busboy. I was a waiter. I was a barback. I was a bartender. I was a bouncer. I was a doorman. I've done everything. So I've always had a job since I was 14. But, you know, um, I did go through my first exposure to the church really was, I was baptized as a baby, and my first real exposure to the church. When I was a young kid, I did have friends that their parents would go to church, and I actually liked doing it. They would go to I think it was like the 10:30 mass at, I think it was St. Isaac Joe's, and they would have this band there, and they would have drums and everything, and it was like a folk band. And I liked that. I liked the service, and I remember enjoying it, but I wouldn't go all the time because my parents didn't go. It was my friend's parents, so whenever I spent the night at his house, I would go with them. So kind of little here and there, touch and go. And then I did go to Sunday school. I did get all my reconciliation, and I never. What else did I go through? I never went through confirmation. Never got confirmed. Something I looked into later as I got to be an adult, but I never wound up following through with that. Which to find out later is not a big deal. So, in my opinion, other people can say it is, but in my opinion, it's not. Um, but anyway, so and then of course my parents did start going to church when I had my drug problem in my maybe sophomore year of high school, where I was kind of smoking pot a lot and just hanging around a bunch of questionable characters and stuff. And it was kind of a different kind of experience for me. I mean, I was still playing football and stuff, and but I was smoking cigarettes. I was getting high. I was partying, and then some of my buddies started getting their driver's licenses, and then we would go and we would, smoke and go drive around all over the place, and then we sometimes we get high before school, and I mean, it really did kind of get out of control a little bit. Um, I remember passing out in the chair at somebody's house, and just I woke up, the chair was completely knocked over, and my feet were in the air. I didn't know how long I was there for, just blacking out. I remember driving my friend's minivan without a license, drunk. Hitting the car and leaving the scene and knocking the mirror off, and then we had to figure out how to get that all fixed. And it was just like every weekend, all we did was party and get drunk or get high. Like that's what we did. And so anyway, I went through drug treatment, kind of cleaned myself up. I was still working in my jobs and stuff. I never took off from job working, and the jobs taught me a lot of stuff, man. I mean, especially like some of the jobs like in fast food and even in the restaurant business. Like, I would meet people who that's what they did, like for their career, and they would have two and three jobs, and I would see how hard they had to work and how hard they had to struggle just to make ends meet. And I thought, I can't be like this. This isn't going to be me for the rest of my life. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. But it was good when I was a kid. Um, so I got through drug treatment, and then during that time is when my parents decided to go to church a little bit, just to try to add that in because maybe that would help fix me or whatever. And I didn't get too much out of the church, because we weren't really a member anywhere. So we went to this place down in it was like right over the city line, St. Michael's, I think, is where we went for a little while. And I did like some of the priests there, and some of the messages that they had to say, they did resonate with me a little bit. But, all in all, it was, I wasn't like bought into God or anything like that. So anyway, I grew up a little bit more. I did go to all public schools for my life. So I went to Pine Grove, Lock Raven High School, and then I went to community college because my grades weren't good enough and my SAT scores weren't good enough to get into a big university. Plus, I knew my parents weren't going to pay for me to go to a big school, even though I really wanted to go to a big school. And I didn't want to go to I remember telling my parents I didn't want to go to my public high school either. I remember telling them I wanted to go to a private high school because I knew some friends there, and that was where I really wanted to be, and that's really where my values and stuff were. And they couldn't afford it, or they just said they weren't going to do it, or whatever. So that was like a promise I made to myself that when I got older and had kids, I always wanted my kids to experience what I didn't experience. So I made sure that they went to private school, made sure they're in some of the best schools in the area that they could possibly be in. of course, I can't make sure. I can only do so much because they're the ones that have to take the tests. They're the ones that have to do the interviews. They're the ones that have to get accepted. There's a lot that goes into this, and people don't realize, who don't send their kids to private school. Like it's not like you just say, I want to go here, and they say, okay. No, it's not like that. Just because you have money doesn't mean your kid's getting into a certain school. It is stressful, but they prepare you so well. And so the schools they go to now, I'm just so happy that everything turned out the way it did. But anyway, back to me. So I went to community college for 2 years. Um, met my sister in law. She was in one of my classes with me. We were criminal justice majors, and she one day introduced me to her older sister, who now is my wife. And she I just remember meeting her and seeing her and just being like, man, she's like the most beautiful girl in the world that I've ever seen. And, it was just, like my heart stopped, meeting her. And, I thought, oh, I'll never be with her. And sure enough, like 2 years later, it was like 2 years later, she asked me to go to a bull roast with her and her parents because they had an extra ticket. And, I went with her. We started dating. I went to Towson University after Essex Community College. I went to Towson University and finished up my 4 year degree there. But I met my wife probably maybe halfway to 3/4 way through my junior year. So I was with her junior year, senior year, and then we just kind of stayed together. And then once I got out of college, all I wanted to be was a police officer, and which was ironic because I was the mischievous kid, always getting into trouble, and hanging out with the wrong crowd, running with the wrong people, who were doing the wrong stuff. And you know it it was ironic, but I wanted to help people. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. And I remember going in to take the test. I took the test. I knew I was going to do fine on that, but they had all these like physical agility tests you had to do. You had to do like the bench press. You had to do the sit-ups. You had to do the mile-and-a-half run. And I was fine with everything except for the mile-and-a-half run because I'd go to the gym, I work out, I lift a lot of weights, and I was training for semi-pro football at one point. But I got to the point where I never passed that run test. It was bothering me. So anyway, I went to go take it. I finally took it. I had to take it on a day that the people who failed it took it because on the original day, my leg was hurt from an incident that happened at work. I had dropped a keg of beer and it hit the side of my leg when I was changing it at the bar that I worked at in the walk-in refrigerator that we had. And so I had this big, huge bruise, and there's no way I could run on that. So they gave me a pass and let me go just take the run only to the other day. And, so right before the test, they give me this piece of paper and it's got like 4 or 5 questions on it. And it says, like, what type of drugs have you done? How often did you do them? When's the last time you used them? How much have you used? So I'm literally sitting there and everybody in the room staring at me because everybody already filled their form out like the last time, but I never got the form. So it's like me and one other person had the form and we're just sitting there. I'm looking at the form. The other person is like writing all their stuff and I'm just sitting there looking at it. And I'm thinking to myself, do I tell the truth and know that I'm probably never going to become a police officer if I tell them everything I've done? Or do I lie and become a police officer potentially after I get through a polygraph examination, which I was pretty sure I could pass because I can manipulate people pretty well. Just a characteristic of mine that I have, that's can be a good thing when I need it to be because I can be kind of a chameleon, and that comes from being emotionally abused. You learn how to kind of dip and duck and dodge no matter what's thrown at you, and you never quit ever because you know that if you just keep going, you're going to win no matter what. And it, you just I figured I would tell the truth. So I did. And the funny thing was I did the run. I got the run done in time. Everything worked out fine. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting the call that, sorry, we can't take you because of your history. So I was like, all right, well, I better find something else out to do. So I found a job as a substance abuse counselor at a local detention facility at Charles Hickey School. I would work there for a little while with the kids there, and it was wild, man. I mean, those kids did not respect you at all, and I had basically no supervision. They just said, just go teach them substance abuse. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? So I knew that job wasn't going to last a long time. So I found a job as a state probation officer for the state of Maryland for juveniles. And I was also offered a job for the state parole and probation, but I had to work down on North Avenue in Baltimore City. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I took this job. It was a grant position, paid like $26,000 a year or something like that, which was like nothing, no benefits, no nothing. Just that's all you get, and you get a contract for 1 year, and then they renew the contract each year as long as the grant gets approved by the state assembly or whatever, the House and the Senate. So anyway, program was called like the Joins program, Juvenile Offenders in Need of Supervision, which I believe is still in effect today. And the cool thing about the program was, this is the way God works, is I still got to work with a police officer. I got paired up with a police officer, and we worked together. A lot of you know who one of the police officers was that I worked with too, but I'm not going to throw anybody out here under the bus because he just retired. But and the ironic thing is, there's actually a lot of my buddies that I hung out with, that I was drinking beer with, without a license, and drinking, driving, and everything else, and doing drugs and selling drugs and all that was, you know, they uh, they became police officers. I guess they lied. But I didn't. So I didn't. But anyway, I got this job, liked this job. It was a good job for me. It allowed me to purchase my first home with my wife. And then one of my buddies, kind of got me involved into real estate because he thought it was an investing class back in like 2005. And he signed us up. But it turned out to be a class on how to get your real estate license. And I said, why'd you sign us up for this? I don't want to be a real estate agent. But, I said, we already paid the money, see what happens. I'll be a real estate agent. And if I don't like it, I'll sell a house, break even, get my money back, call it a day, and I'll learn something. Well, first year I sold like 4 houses, which worked out to like $20,000 in income for me after my split with my broker, which was pretty bad, like a 50-50 split at the time, because I was new. So I didn't know what splits I should get. Well, as you sell more, you start getting paid more. But anyway, so the next year turned into like $40,000 a year. So now I'm making like more than the state job. Then the next year turned into like $80,000 a year. So now it's 2 times more than the state job. And then like the next year, I made like $150,000, and I'm like, why am I working at the state? Imagine if I didn't work at the state, how much money I could make. So then I made the move from one brokerage to another brokerage, and I went to a 95% split, and I started making bank. I started making what I thought was bank: $250,000, $400,000, $500,000. I think I did 550 or six with them, and then I eventually, and that was after I quit the state job, and then I went to a new broker who was opening up, kind of a boutique type of broker, where I went from 95% to 100% split. And I came over there. This was in like 2016, 17, 18, and 19. I was the number one agent immediately in 2016, 17, and 18 at the brokerage, for all agents at the brokerage at Cummings and Company. And then number nine in 2019, I was number two. But I can't remember what year it was, but one of the years I made like $850,000. I mean, that much money. And that's a ton of money. And I'm already starting to see this is probably going to have to be a part one and part two video. So anyway, I made that much money. And that's insane. When you're 37 years old or whatever I was, plus you wind up, flipping one or two houses, where you buy a house for like a foreclosure and then you fix it up and then you sell it. I did that like twice a year too. So I'm making another $50,000 each one of those. That's another 100,000. So I'm making almost $1 million a year. You know, and I'm working like crazy. I'm working like a nut. And I'm starting to live the life. I'm starting to say, you know what? We went from the townhouse to another kind of carriage house, and very quickly went from that. And I said, let's just go buy the big one. And we go and buy this like ridiculous like 9,600 square foot house without the basement, and which the basement's got partially done in there too, and or maybe it was 9,600 with the basement stuff that's in there. I can't remember. It was close to 10, but I couldn't believe, I'm spending this money on this house, and then I'm still making this money, and I wind up buying a condo down Ocean City for cash, in a waterfront building, oceanfront building, 2 bed, 2 bath. I mean, great updated unit. You can see the ocean, you can see the bay. You got the sunrise in the morning, you got the sunset in the afternoon. I mean, it was perfect. You can see fireworks every Sunday at Northside Park, and it was just like the perfect location. And then I had another property I bought too as a rental property. Thought I was going to start getting into that and getting into rental properties too. And I also, well, technically, my wife also helped somebody start a title company, so we had that too, which was just amazing. I mean, it was everything. I had everything, and it just, I saw no end in sight. So so I started living the life. I started getting my suits made, custom made, with the signature on my sleeves, and the custom with my name in my jackets and in my pants. And I had my jeans made, I had my shoes made, I had my belts made. I'd order all that from the same guy. I even ties and custom shirts and suits and everything. And I had people cleaning my house. I had people cutting my grass. I had people, all kinds of contractors trying to give me money because I was referring them so much business for like flooring, for people's carpeting, and painters. And I mean, I had so much referral business that I was giving out. I had contractors coming to my office, dropping off a check for like $1,000 saying, "Here, Mike, thanks." I'm like, whoa, whoa, I can't take that. I'm not taking that. That's a huge violation for me. So I'm like, here you go. Thank you. I'll let you know if there's ever something I need at my house or something that I need you to help me with, and we'll just work something out with that. But I'm not taking money. That's not happening. So kind of let that go. But I mean, I had people throwing money at me. I couldn't even. I was attracted to it. It was an absolute magnet for me, and it was just this part of my life that just wouldn't end. It was money was an idol for me, and that's all I cared about. And it was like that ever since I was 14 years old, because I was in this mindset that I had to make all this money because I had to support myself. And it just turned into this, and then couple that with the programming of I had to be the best at what I was and everything, and like that kind of got me to where I needed to be. Um, there was other things that happened in my life too. My mother, God rest her soul, she committed suicide when I was in my early 20s, and I still don't know all the deal with that and what happened. I hear she took some pills and things, and she had real bad fibromyalgia and pains, and was told she's going to be on pain pills the rest of her life, and she was actually on morphine. I mean, that's how bad it was. So part of me believes that, but part of me doesn't know really what happened, because I don't know if I ever get the true story from my father, because I haven't talked to him in over 20 years. But anyway, to digress back to real estate. So so I got everything I wanted, right? I'm like, I'm right where I want. It's everything I want. It's everything I need. And I'm stressed to the max though, because I'm working like 24/7, like an absolute madman machine. And I'm like, I need to relax. I need to calm down. Well, Here comes some more things that money buys you. Anything you want, right? Anything you want. So I said, well, marijuana wasn't legal in Maryland yet, but I knew some people that owned some dispensaries. So I said, let me get some marijuana and just have a little bit that can take the edge off, that can let me relax, that can let me just be and calm down and just relax. So I'd smoke a little bit, and then at night, and I would go up and I would listen to some music or watch some TV and just drift off into my utopic, highness and go to bed. And this worked for a while. And then, I started to do it like every other night. Then I started to do it like every night. Then I started to do it like more because I needed the tolerance started to build up. So I started to have to smoke more and more and more and more just to get high, which turned into um, like 30 bong hits a night. I'll be honest with you, 30 bong hits a night. And remember, this stuff that I'm smoking is not the stuff that I smoked in high school. This isn't like 5%, THC, graded. This is like 40% THC from a lab that grows it. So, and they inject stuff into this stuff to make it as potent as it was. So that's how much I was smoking because my tolerance had built up. And honestly, I felt the best I ever felt in my entire life. I felt unstoppable. I felt invincible. I felt like the good old Wolf of Wall Street himself. I just felt like I was the wolf of real estate and nobody was going to stop me and nothing was going to stop me. And I'm going to win no matter what, just because I can. And I can just continue to do whatever I want because I felt like I was my own God. I didn't need God. I had everything. What do I need God for? What's he going to do for me? So that was my mentality. That was how I was. And I look around in this industry today and I see it. And I see all these wolves out there and I see it in their eyes. I see this greed and I see this like just envy. I see this lust for money and power and prestige and ego and pride and it's just fueled by you know some of these companies that promote it, and throw parties promoting it, and it's all built on vanity, which is a sin. And I succumbed to it. That's all I